Think about your favorite sitcoms, those shows that made you laugh week after week, where everything seemed perfect behind the scenes. But for some actors, the reality was far darker than the comedy they were creating. While they brought joy to millions of viewers, several sitcom stars were battling severe alcohol and drug problems that threatened to destroy their careers and their lives. Some showed up to work hungover, others were fired multiple times, and a few barely remember filming entire seasons of their most famous work. Here are 10 troubling stories about sitcom actors who struggled with addiction while making America laugh. Matthew Perry's hidden battle on Friends. Matthew Perry became one of television's most beloved characters as Chandler Bing on Friends. But behind his quick wit and perfect comic timing was a man fighting for his life. According to his memoir, Perry's weight fluctuated dramatically throughout the show's 10 seasons, and he revealed that viewers could track his addiction by his appearance. When he was heavy, it was alcohol. When he was skinny, it meant pills. And when he had a goatee, according to Perry, it meant lots of pills. Perry emphasized that he never drank during actual filming out of respect for his castmates, but he arrived on set severely hungover so often that he was shaking. Jennifer Aniston eventually confronted him, telling Perry that the cast could smell alcohol on him, and the plural "we" hit him like a sledgehammer. He admitted to not remembering 3 entire seasons of filming, specifically seasons 3 through 6. At one particularly low point, Perry was reportedly taking 55 Vicodin pills a day and spent over $9 million trying to get sober. During season 7, he was living in a sober facility and was driven to and from set each day, including the day he filmed Monica and Chandler's wedding. Perry described his struggle as a lonely time despite being at the height of fame, and he opened up about his battles to help others facing similar demons. McKenzie Phillips fired twice from One Day at a Time. McKenzie Phillips had everything going for her as Julie Cooper on the hit sitcom One Day at a Time, reportedly earning $50,000 per week as a teenager. But her struggles with drugs and alcohol nearly destroyed everything. Phillips started using substances at age 11, introduced to cocaine by her own father, musician John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas. By the time she was working on One Day at a Time, her addiction had progressed so severely that she would arrive late to rehearsals and appeared incoherent on set. During the 3rd season in 1977, she was arrested for disorderly conduct. The producers initially tried to help her, ordering a 6-week break for treatment, but ultimately fired her in 1980 after the situation didn't improve. Phillips suffered 2 near-fatal overdoses and entered Fair Oaks Hospital for treatment. The producers gave her another chance in 1981, bringing her back to the show, but history repeated itself. In 1982, she relapsed into cocaine use, and the following year, she collapsed on set. When she refused to take a drug test, she was fired permanently, and her character was written out of the series. Phillips later revealed she had spent between $300,000 and $400,000 on drugs during that period, describing herself as weighing just 90 pounds and being completely unaware of how serious her situation had become. Dick Van Dyke's 7-Year Secret. Dick Van Dyke seemed like the wholesome all-American entertainer, famous for his smile and incredible physical comedy on The Dick Van Dyke Show and in films like Mary Poppins. But behind that cheerful exterior, Van Dyke was hiding a severe alcohol problem that lasted approximately 7 years. According to Van Dyke in later interviews, he drank socially and never while actually working or before going to the set, but his drinking affected his life significantly when the cameras stopped rolling. He described how an alcoholic progresses from being a happy drunk to eventually becoming a mean drunk and an unhappy person, and he could feel himself getting testier and hated what he was becoming. Van Dyke checked into a hospital for 3 weeks in 1972 to address his addiction, and 2 years later, he starred in a television movie called The Morning After, playing an alcoholic businessman. He revealed after the film's release that he had recently overcome his real-life drinking problem, admitting he had been an alcoholic for 25 years. His decision to go public was groundbreaking for the time, and when he appeared on The Dick Cavett Show in 1974, he spoke openly about alcoholism being a physical disease rather than a character flaw. Van Dyke said many people decided to quit drinking after watching The Morning After, and he credited quitting alcohol and cigarettes with his remarkable longevity, remaining active and healthy well into his 90s. Norm Macdonald's pool scene. Norm Macdonald wasn't technically on a sitcom when this happened, but his story from filming Billy Madison with Adam Sandler reveals just how far method acting can go. Macdonald played Frank, Billy's drunk best friend, who spent most of his scenes lounging by the pool with a drink in hand. During one particular pool scene, Sandler delivered his line and waited for Macdonald to respond. And waited some more. Sandler thought Macdonald was taking his time with the delivery, really milking the moment, but after several seconds of silence, Sandler realized that Macdonald had actually fallen asleep. When later asked about the incident on Conan O'Brien's show, Macdonald explained his logic with perfect deadpan delivery. They wanted him to play a drunk, so he asked if they had any booze. Macdonald also admitted that because he was actually drunk during filming, when Sandler called him by his character name Frank, he was genuinely confused about who Frank was. Reportedly, Macdonald would drink a can or two of beer before certain scenes to get into character, and according to crew members, when one scene was taking a long time to film, he actually passed out during it. Kelsey Grammer's struggles on Cheers. Kelsey Grammer joined Cheers as the pompous psychiatrist Frasier Crane and became one of television's most memorable characters, but his time on the show coincided with one of the darkest periods of his life. Grammer later revealed that during his years on Cheers, he was going through severe self-doubt and self-loathing, and he was drinking heavily throughout this time. The drinking affected his work to the point where Ted Danson, who played Sam Malone, confronted him about it. According to Grammer, Danson came up to him and said he was kind of mad that Grammer sometimes didn't show up ready to go. Grammer acknowledged the criticism and said he respected Danson's feedback, but the incident created a rift between them that lasted 3 decades. The falling out wasn't the result of a major argument, but rather happened because of how Grammer was feeling and behaving at that point in his life. Years later, on Grammer's podcast, Danson apologized and said he felt he had missed out on 30 years of friendship with Grammer, acknowledging that it was his doing. Grammer went on to achieve sobriety and massive success with the spin-off series Frasier, which ran for 11 seasons and earned him multiple Emmy Awards. Daniel Radcliffe's Harry Potter Hangovers. While Harry Potter wasn't a sitcom, Daniel Radcliffe's admission about drinking during the later films shows how addiction can affect even the biggest stars. Radcliffe revealed in multiple interviews that during his late teens and early 20s, while filming the later Harry Potter movies, he was drinking heavily almost every night. He emphasized that he never drank at work on the Harry Potter set, but he would show up to filming still drunk from the night before. Radcliffe admitted he could point to many scenes where he looked completely gone, dead behind the eyes, and he couldn't remember filming large portions of the series. He described having a very addictive personality and said his drinking was a serious problem. What made it even more challenging was that he was starring in one of the biggest film franchises in history, with 30 million people watching his every move, making his struggles very public. Radcliffe credited his deep love for his job and his castmates with preventing him from letting his personal issues affect his professionalism on set. He eventually quit drinking around 2010 and has been open about his recovery journey, using his experience to encourage others struggling with addiction. The Cheers cast's drunken finale. The cast of Cheers might have spent 11 years serving drinks in a Boston bar, but it was after the show ended that they had their most infamous drinking experience. When the series finale aired in 1993, NBC arranged for Jay Leno to host a live special featuring the cast. The network brought the actors to the actual Cheers bar in Boston at 2 in the afternoon for interviews and to hang around before the broadcast. The problem was they hadn't seen each other for 2 or 3 months and were having an emotional goodbye. As Ted Danson later explained on his podcast, what do you do when you're stuck in a bar for 6 hours? You start drinking, and then later you start smoking. By the time the cameras went live, with the countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Jay Leno looked up from his notes, and his eyes went wide as he realized the entire cast was visibly drunk. Woody Harrelson confirmed they were all completely intoxicated by the time the special began. George Wendt, who played Norm Peterson, later recalled the incident with amusement, noting that they got a lot of criticism for appearing drunk on national television. The image of the beloved Cheers cast, clearly inebriated during what was supposed to be a professional tribute to their show, became one of the most talked about television moments of the 90s and has remained a topic of conversation on social media ever since. Billy Bob Thornton's Bad Santa method. Billy Bob Thornton took method acting to an extreme level while playing the drunken, foul-mouthed Mall, Santa in Bad Santa. Thornton has openly discussed how he actually drank throughout filming to authentically portray the character's constant state of intoxication. According to Thornton in interviews, on the day they filmed the scene where his character has a breakdown at the mall and attacks a decorative Christmas donkey, he started his morning by reportedly drinking 3 glasses of red wine for breakfast, then switched to vodka and cranberry juice and finished with a few beers. By the time he got to that particular scene, he later said he barely knew he was in a movie. During one part where his character rides an escalator in a drunken stupor, Thornton actually fell asleep on camera and was only woken up by the sudden jolt when the escalator reached the top. Thornton defended his choice to actually drink during filming by explaining that in comedy, you can't be sort of drunk, you have to go completely into it. He said this approach helped him ignore the fact that he actually loves children and adores them, which would have made playing such a cruel character difficult if he had been sober. The kids on set reportedly didn't care about his cursing or his condition, which Thornton found amusing. Shelley Long's departure from Cheers. While Shelley Long's departure from Cheers after 5 seasons has been attributed to many factors over the years, including her desire to pursue a film career, there have been various reports about tensions on set. Long played Diane Chambers, the intellectual waitress whose on-again, off-again romance with Sam Malone drove much of the show's early success. According to some accounts, Long struggled with the demanding schedule of a weekly sitcom and the pressure of being one of the show's leads. While Long herself has not publicly discussed alcohol problems during her time on Cheers, crew members from the show have mentioned in various interviews that the intense pressure and long hours affected different cast members in different ways. Long won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for her performance as Diane, and her departure after season 5 was one of the most talked about events in television at the time. The show successfully continued for 6 more seasons, with Kirstie Alley replacing Long as Rebecca Howe, proving that Cheers could survive without one of its original stars. Long has remained relatively private about her personal life and her reasons for leaving the show. The pressure of sitcom success. What connects many of these stories is the immense pressure that comes with being on a successful sitcom. Unlike films where you work intensely for a few months and then move on, sitcom actors often spend years, sometimes a decade or more, playing the same character week after week. The combination of long hours, high expectations, and sudden fame can create an environment where some people turn to alcohol or drugs as a coping mechanism. Matthew Perry described it as being in the white-hot flame of fame from age 24 to 34. And that despite bringing laughter to tens of millions of viewers, it was actually a very lonely time. The irony of these situations is striking. Actors who made their living making people laugh were often miserable behind the scenes. Many sitcoms film in front of live studio audiences, adding another layer of pressure to perform perfectly while potentially dealing with hangovers or withdrawal. The demanding schedules meant early morning call times, long days of rehearsal, and late-night filming sessions, leaving little time for rest or recovery. Recovery and redemption. Despite the darkness of these stories, many of these actors eventually found their way to sobriety and used their experiences to help others. Matthew Perry became an advocate for addiction recovery and spent millions of his own money on treatment and helping others. He even converted his Malibu home into a sober living facility called the Perry House to help other men in recovery. McKenzie Phillips went back to school, became a certified drug and alcohol counselor, and now works at the Breathe Life Healing Center in West Hollywood, helping others battle the same demons she faced. Dick Van Dyke became one of the first celebrities to openly discuss his alcoholism on national television, helping to reduce the stigma around addiction treatment. Daniel Radcliffe has been sober for over a decade and speaks openly about his journey to encourage others. These redemption stories show that recovery is possible, even for those who struggled at the height of their fame. Several of these actors have said that one of their greatest accomplishments isn't their Emmy Awards or box office success, but rather the people they've helped along the way in their recovery journeys. Recovery journeys. Recovery journeys.